You notice it on the car ride home, or in the shower, or staring at your phone at 2 a.m. Something feels off. Nothing you can point to. No screaming. No insults. No proof. Just this quiet thought you keep pushing away. Why do I feel like the villain in a story I didn't write? The real danger in life does not come from obvious villains. It comes from people who look reasonable, kind, and self-controlled while they quietly set up moves 5 steps ahead. They do not just want to win arguments. They want the environment itself to punish you if you ever pull away. They make distance feel like betrayal. They make doubt feel like cruelty. They make speaking up feel like you are attacking an innocent person. This is why so many smart, strong people get trapped. They are not stupid. They are not weak. They just keep fighting inside the manipulator's frame. They keep trying to use honesty, empathy, and logic in a game that was never about honesty, empathy, or logic. It was about control. The person across from them understood something most people never study: how the human mind bends under pressure, under guilt, under fear of being alone, and under the terror of being seen as a bad person. In this video, you are going to see 5 tactics that feel like something out of Johan Liebert's playbook. They are not magic. They are the result of dark triad traits, social psychology, addiction science, and attachment research applied ruthlessly. You will see how some people forge a perfect halo so your complaints bounce off, how they use other people as weapons so you never get a clear target, how they pull your secrets out of you, then turn them into an invisible leash, how they train your nervous system with hot-cold treatment until you crave their approval like a drug, and how they use your past investments to lock the door behind you. The goal is simple. You need to see the setup early, not just survive the ending. You need to learn to trust the small discomforts you usually push away when someone seems too good or too kind or too understanding. You need to notice when your world starts to revolve around defending yourself instead of living your life. Once you see the structure of these games, something important changes. The guilt loses its grip. The confusion fades. You stop asking what is wrong with me and start asking the better question: what are they building around me, and how do I step out of it now? The Halo Forge. Truly dangerous manipulators do not start with cruelty. They start with charm. They know that in most social groups, the person with the better image wins before the argument even starts, so they build that image early. Social psychology calls it the halo effect. When people see someone as kind, smart, or competent in one area, they unconsciously stretch that positive view across everything else. If someone seems reasonable, people also assume they are honest. If they are polite, people assume they are moral. The manipulator understands this bias and turns it into armor. Their kindness is not random. It is strategic. They pick who to impress and when. They help important people in visible ways. They offer help when there is an audience. They volunteer for things that make them look selfless. Research on reciprocity shows that even small favors create a sense of debt. You feel a quiet push to see them in a positive light, to give them the benefit of the doubt, to stand up for them. The manipulator treats these acts like investments. Later, when someone questions their behavior, everyone remembers the help they gave, the polite manners, the calm tone. The verdict is set before the story is heard. They are especially careful in front of authority figures and group leaders. They rarely raise their voice. They rarely show open anger in public. Studies on impression management show that people care a lot about how they look to those with power. The manipulator takes this to an extreme. Their worst behavior happens behind closed doors. Their needling comments, gaslighting, or cruelty are saved for private moments where there are no witnesses. This sets up a simple trap. When you finally snap and react in public, your anger looks unprovoked. You seem unstable. They seem calm and confused. Outsiders do not see the months of private cuts. They just see you losing control next to someone who looks composed. They also collect allies, not in the normal way people make friends, but as a kind of shield. Research on social proof and conformity shows that people will doubt their own judgment if the group disagrees. The manipulator builds a fan club among popular peers, respected coworkers, kind older people, anyone whose opinion carries weight. They listen to their stories, agree with their views, help them at important moments. Over time, these allies start saying the same things about them. So kind, so reasonable, so mature. The praise even starts to sound like a script. This matters later. When conflict comes, you are not speaking to neutral observers. You are speaking to a jury that believes they already know the good person in the story. The early signs are usually small and easy to dismiss. Everyone seems to like them, but in a strangely uniform way. Compliments about them repeat the same phrases, as if rehearsed. They seem very aware of how they are perceived. They might act different around different people, always adjusting to what will impress. You might feel faint discomfort around them, a sense that something does not fully add up, but you quickly shut it down because you hear so many good things about them. You tell yourself you are being unfair, that your instincts are off, because who are you to question someone everyone praises? Once the halo is in place, your reality can be overridden. Confirmation bias makes people protect their first impressions. If they already see the manipulator as good, your story does not shift that belief. Instead, they twist your story to match what they already think. They tell themselves you must be sensitive, jealous, misreading things. They say they have never seen that side of the person. They remind you of all the kind things the manipulator has done. Some will even repeat your private concerns to that person in the name of balance or fairness, feeding them more information to use against you. This is how people get isolated in plain sight. You start to notice that bringing up your concerns backfires. You end up defending your tone instead of the facts. You are told to calm down, to not be so dramatic, to consider their side. Over time, you may doubt your own memory. Maybe it was not that bad. Maybe you misunderstood. Maybe it is safer to say nothing. Silence becomes self-defense, but it also protects the manipulator. They do not need to run a smear campaign against you directly. The halo they built does most of the work. The damage goes deeper than just reputation. Living in a world where your honest experience keeps losing to someone else's image breaks something inside. You start to believe that being alert is the same as being paranoid. You may suppress your anger until it turns into fatigue or depression. The manipulator walks on, still calm, still polite, still amazing in the eyes of the group, while you shrink yourself to avoid more social pain. From the outside, it looks like they are fine, and you are fragile. In reality, you are carrying the full cost of everyone else's blind faith in their halo. The proxy knife. Some manipulators avoid direct fights, because direct fights create evidence. Raised voices, clear insults, sharp messages can be quoted and exposed, so they use a different method. They stab by remote control. Research on Machiavellian personalities describes people who prefer indirect strategies. They get what they want through other people. This is the proxy knife. You almost never face them straight on. You face a circle of concerned friends, neutral coworkers, and just trying to help messengers. It feels like the whole environment is turning against you, but you cannot point to a single clear attack. The classic line they rely on is simple. Someone was concerned about you. Gossip scientists have found that when hurtful information is wrapped in concern, it slides past defenses more easily. The proxy knife user plants small ideas about you into others, that you are unstable, overreactive, difficult, ungrateful, or not doing your share. They present these ideas with a worried face, a soft tone, as if they hate even bringing it up. The people listening think they are hearing an honest, caring perspective. Later, those same people repeat these ideas back to you as their own thoughts. You start to doubt yourself. You rush to explain, defend, clarify. Without knowing it, you are now reacting to a story the manipulator wrote. Plausible deniability protects them. Many times they will never literally say the harsh word. They will ask leading questions, sigh at the right moments, leave out key details, or tell half-truths that suggest a certain view of you. Studies on how rumors form show that people quickly fill in the blanks with assumptions. The manipulator knows this. They simply tilt the conversation in a certain direction and let the group finish the job. If you ever accuse them, they have an easy escape. I never said that. And it might be true in a narrow sense. They did not. They just made sure everyone else would. This method creates constant triangulation. Family systems research describes how some people keep power by making others talk about each other instead of to each other. The proxy knife thrives on this. You hear that someone is upset with you, but not from them. They hear that you complained, but not from you. Whenever you think about going directly to the person, the manipulator appears in the middle, acting torn and stressed. I really do not want to be in the middle of this. Yet they are always in the middle. They claim to want peace, but somehow conflict grows in every circle around them, while they remain the one person everyone trusts with the full story. Early warning signs show up in simple patterns. You start learning about other people's feelings through third parties instead of direct talks. Misunderstandings increase, but there is always the same person nearby when they happen. This person often looks sad, weighed down, caught in between. They often say they hate drama, yet they always know everyone's business. When you ask them clear questions, their answers are emotional and vague, never solid. They speak in general moods like people are worried or some feel hurt, but never give names or concrete details that could be calmly checked. Over time, this erodes your social standing. Research on ostracism shows that being ignored or excluded causes real psychological pain and can push people toward anxiety, depression, or extreme self-doubt. Under the influence of a proxy knife manipulator, people start avoiding you without clear reasons. Invitations slow down. Messages get short. Colleagues turn cold. You might sense that something has been said, but you cannot get a clear answer. If you finally call out the manipulator, it looks unhinged. After all, they never openly attacked you. They might even show others private messages where they seemed kind to you, proving their good intentions. The cruel part is that you may start doing their job for them. The more you feel misunderstood by the group, the more emotional your reactions become. The more emotional you seem, the easier it is for the manipulator to sell the story that you are unstable. You might write long explanations to people who have already been trained to see you as dramatic. You might apologize for things you did not do just to stop the tension. Every move you make to fix your reputation is judged through the frame they quietly set up. This tactic ruins more than friendships and careers. It damages your basic trust in communication. After going through this, many people start to believe that talking honestly makes things worse, not better. They become guarded, suspicious, quiet. Even in future healthy environments, they hold back complaints until they burst out in ways that look extreme. On the surface, it seems like they are the problem. In truth, they are responding to a long history of having their words twisted and used against them by someone who preferred to cut from the shadows. The proxy knife user stays clean. They get sympathy for being stuck in the middle. They gain information from all sides, which gives them more power. They can pull people closer or push them apart at will. By the time the social bleeding is obvious, it is hard to trace where it started. That is the purpose. No clear enemy. Just a slow, quiet shift in how everyone sees you, until even you are not sure who you are anymore. Before we continue, if you don't want to lose this channel, then subscribe, because you will not find this depth of details on dark psychology anywhere else. The confession trap. Some manipulators do not need cameras, proof, or passwords to control you. They only need your own words. They get them by moving far too fast into emotional depth, then turning your secrets into invisible chains. At first, it feels like the most intense connection you have ever had. They say they understand you better than anyone. They stay up late talking about life, pain, meaning, and childhood. You tell yourself you are finally being seen. In reality, you are handing them a map of your deepest wounds. Research on grooming and exploitative relationships shows a repeating pattern called fast-tracking intimacy. Instead of letting trust build slowly through actions over time, the manipulator floods you with emotional closeness right away. They ask about your past. They talk about trauma. They compare your connection to other shallow relationships they claim to hate. Attachment researchers have noticed how this kind of intensity can be especially powerful for people who already carry loneliness or unstable bonds from childhood. It feels like a cure, so you ignore how rushed it is. They are very skilled at inviting your secrets. Studies on self-disclosure show that sharing personal details makes people feel closer, but here the sharing is not balanced. They often share in a way that feels deep, but is actually vague or dramatic, like a speech. Meanwhile, they ask you for specifics. They want to know names, dates, exact words that hurt you. Questions like, "What are you most ashamed of?" Or, "What did your parents say that you still hear in your head?" sound caring, but they also give them precise tools. Every answer becomes part of a private file on you. What you fear, what you regret, what you cannot bear to have exposed. You might notice that when they talk about their own pain, it is almost like a performance. The timing is perfect. The details that would let you check the story are fuzzy or missing. But the emotion is strong. This is how they get you to lower your guard. You think, "They trusted me, so I should trust them too." In reality, the risk is not equal. They keep control of what you know about them. You hand over things that could break you if used in the wrong moment. The most dangerous part is that they often never need to say a single direct threat. Research on shame shows that people will go to extreme lengths to avoid having their most painful secrets revealed. Once the manipulator holds your private story, your own mind starts doing the work. You think about what would happen if they told others. Would friends see you differently? Would your family judge you? Would your partner leave? They do not have to say they will expose you. You imagine it yourself and then change your behavior to prevent that nightmare. As the relationship goes on, you start noticing something strange during conflict. The exact wounds you told them about earlier begin to show up in arguments like precision weapons. If you shared that a parent always called you selfish, that word appears in their accusations at the worst moments. If you admitted you feel broken or unlovable, they might say you are lucky they put up with you when you push back. If you confessed a big mistake from your past, they might bring it up when you try to set a boundary, hinting that you have no right to judge anyone. They are not just criticizing you in general, they are aiming straight at the softest spots you revealed. Trauma research shows that when old injuries are triggered, people often regress into earlier emotional states. Rational thinking shuts down. The child version of you, who was scared, desperate, or ashamed, takes over. The manipulator counts on this. In those moments, you are not just dealing with them, you are fighting ghosts from your past. This makes you easier to control. You might give in just to make the horrible feelings stop. Later, you tell yourself you overreacted and agree to their version of events. Early warning signs of the confession trap can be felt more than seen. The emotional speed feels intoxicating instead of steady. You find yourself saying things like, "I have never told anyone this before," very early in knowing them. They keep insisting that you are safe. You can tell them anything. They would never judge you. That might sound kind, but real safety is earned, not declared. Ask yourself a simple question. If this connection ended badly, how much power would this person have to hurt me with what they know? If the answer scares you, that is a sign you have handed over too much, too soon. Another sign is that their curiosity about your pain seems stronger than their curiosity about your values, plans, or ordinary life. Conversations orbit around trauma, flaws, insecurities, not simple daily things. They might steer discussions back to your weak points, even when you try to move on. If you test their boundaries by giving a small no or keeping something to yourself, they might act hurt, distant, or disappointed, as if not sharing everything is a betrayal. That teaches you, little by little, that honesty equals full exposure. Over time, your own vulnerability becomes a cage. You start avoiding normal, healthy actions because of what they might trigger. You hold back from disagreeing because they could bring up that shameful thing you told them. You stay quiet when you want to leave because they know stories that could damage your relationships, job, or self-image. Even if they never use your secrets directly, the fear that they might is enough to keep you in place. Your own imagination is the guard at the prison door. Research on coercive control in abusive relationships shows that this kind of informational power can be as strong as physical force. A person may not be chained in a room, yet feel completely unable to walk away. There is also another trap hidden inside: pride. To leave and expose what happened, you might have to admit that you trusted the wrong person and gave them weapons against you. For many people, that is almost as painful as the abuse itself, so they stay, telling themselves it will get better, or that the manipulator is just wounded and misunderstood. The confession trap does not only damage the current situation, It can poison your future ability to open up. After being used like this, many people start to believe that sharing is always dangerous, that intimacy is always a trick. They might push away safe people who want to know them, because the feeling of being known now equals the fear of being hurt. That is a double victory for the manipulator. They did not just control you during the relationship. They left you with a belief that keeps you isolated long after they are gone. To protect yourself, you do not need to become cold or distant forever. You need to add one clear rule: depth must be matched by proof, not just emotion. Before handing someone your worst secrets, watch how they handle small disagreements. Watch how they speak about others who are not in the room. Notice if their own self-disclosure is detailed and consistent over time, or theatrical and shifting. Emotional intensity is easy to fake. Honest character over months is not. The confession trap counts on you rushing past that test. Slowing down is not paranoia. It is survival. The hot-cold hook. Some manipulators do not need to threaten or guilt you to keep you close. They train your emotions like a lab animal, using reward and withdrawal until your nervous system is tied to their moods. They know that the most powerful leash is not made of fear, but of craving. It starts with warmth that feels almost unreal. Then, without warning, that warmth disappears. You are left confused, anxious, and desperate to get it back. This is the hot-cold hook. B.F. Skinner's research on operant conditioning showed that when rewards come on an unpredictable schedule, behavior becomes extremely hard to change. This is called intermittent reinforcement. A slot machine does not pay out every time. It pays just often enough that people keep pulling the lever for hours. In a similar way, the manipulator gives you affection, praise, and attention, but not consistently. Some days you are their favorite person. Other days, they act distant, annoyed, or uninterested, without a clear reason. Your brain starts to chase the high of the good days. At first, the good side of them feels like a dream. They text a lot. They compliment you. They share jokes and secrets. They make you feel chosen. Neuroimaging research on love and addiction shows that this kind of intense positive attention lights up the same dopamine pathways that drugs do. In your mind, they become linked to joy, safety, and meaning. So when they suddenly go cold, it does not feel like a small shift. It feels like losing access to your main source of emotional oxygen. You start asking yourself what changed. Did you say something wrong? Did you forget to answer quickly enough? Did you bore them? This is exactly what the manipulator wants. Instead of seeing their inconsistency as a red flag, you turn the spotlight on yourself. You begin to study their reactions, their tone, their timing. You adjust your behavior to avoid triggering the cold side. Maybe you stop bringing up certain topics. Maybe you always say yes to plans, even when tired. Maybe you laugh at jokes that hurt you. Your real self bends so the warm version of them shows up more often. Research on contingent self-worth explains this shift. When approval is made conditional, people start tying their sense of value to how well they meet someone else's standards. Under a hot-cold manipulator, every interaction feels like a test. When they are kind, you feel relief, as if you passed. When they are distant, you feel panic, as if you failed. Notice that word, relief. In a healthy relationship, good moments feel steady and simple. You feel happy and content, not rescued from fear. If positive contact with someone feels like a break from ongoing tension, that is not love. That is a sign your nervous system is trapped in a cycle of stress and temporary release. When you point out their changes in behavior, they rarely admit it. Studies on gaslighting show how abusers twist reality by blaming the victim's perception. The manipulator may say you are too sensitive, too needy, or too dramatic. They might say they have just been busy, stressed, or in a bad mood. Sometimes they even flip it back on you. They claim they pull away because you are pressuring them, or because you bring too much negativity. This keeps you chasing an invisible rulebook. If you could just be a little more easygoing, more peaceful, more grateful, maybe they would go back to how they were at the start. The early warning signs often appear very quickly. The relationship feels like a roller coaster in the first weeks or months, instead of a slow, stable build. They go from intense contact to periods of silence or short, flat replies. They cancel plans last minute without much care, then later shower you with attention again. You notice that when you are with them in a good phase, a part of you is quietly tense, trying not to do anything that might ruin the moment. You walk on eggshells not because they are openly cruel, but because you have learned how fast the climate can change. Another sign is that apologies and explanations never really fix the pattern. They might say sorry after a cold spell but then repeat it. Or they switch strategies and blame external things like work, family, or mental health. Yet somehow their warmth towards others stays steady, while yours goes up and down. That reveals the truth. The hot-cold switch is not just random stress. It is a tool they reserve for you, often because you are already hooked enough to tolerate it. Over time, your baseline idea of what a relationship feels like starts to warp. Trauma bonding research shows that when periods of pain and comfort keep cycling, the brain forms very strong attachments to the person involved. The one causing the distress is also the only person who can fully calm it down. That mix of fear and relief creates a bond that can be harder to break than simple kindness ever would. You might notice that other healthier people feel dull or boring compared to the high-drama person who keeps flipping on you. That is not proof that this manipulator is your soulmate. It is proof that your nervous system has been trained to need intensity just to feel alive. This dynamic ruins more than your mood. It reshapes your self-image. You may start to believe that you are indeed too emotional, too clingy, or not easy to love because you keep seeing yourself beg, explain, or cry in response to their sudden shifts. You might replay your messages, looking for what you did wrong, instead of asking a more honest question: why am I accepting a connection that makes me feel this unstable? You could end up blaming yourself for reactions that are actually normal responses to chaos. The hot-cold hook also drains your life outside the relationship. When things are bad, you might be too anxious to focus on work or study. When things are good, you may cancel plans with friends just to enjoy the rare warmth while it lasts. Slowly, other sources of support and pleasure shrink. That makes you even more dependent on the manipulator. Now, if they pull away, it is not just losing them. It is facing how small your world has become around them. Protecting yourself starts with taking your own emotional patterns seriously. If you notice that someone makes you feel constantly off balance, always trying to earn affection that used to be given freely, treat that as a serious warning. Keep a simple written record for yourself of how often they cancel, ignore, or switch moods without clear cause. When you see the pattern on paper instead of just in your feelings, it becomes harder to excuse. Also, pay close attention to how they respond when you bring this up calmly. A person who cares about you will want to become more consistent once they see they are hurting you. A person who benefits from the hook will dismiss, blame, or turn it into an attack on your character. You do not have to wait for open abuse to decide that a relationship is unhealthy. Constant hot-cold treatment is enough. Your nervous system is not built to live in that kind of storm forever. Stability might seem boring at first if you are used to chaos, but stability is what lets you actually grow, create, and rest. The hot-cold hook wants you too tired and confused to remember that calm love exists. Seeing the pattern clearly is the first step to loosening its grip, so that what once felt like magic now looks like what it really is: training, not care. The sunk cost lock. Some manipulators do not need to convince you that things are good. They only need to convince you that leaving would be worse. They turn your time, effort, money, and reputation into bars on a cage, then sit back while you lock the door from the inside. You tell yourself you have already given too much to walk away now. That thought is not natural. It is the sunk cost lock. Behavioral economics calls it the sunk cost fallacy. People keep pouring money into failing projects because they have already invested so much. They stay in careers they hate because of years of study. They hold on to losing stocks because accepting the loss feels like admitting they were wrong. Manipulators understand this bias without reading any paper. They start by getting you to invest small things: your time, your help, your emotional energy. Then they gently push that into bigger commitments that are harder to undo. Every step makes the next step feel automatic. At the start, it might look harmless. You spend extra hours helping them with tasks. You rearrange your schedule for them. You defend them in arguments. They praise you for being loyal, dedicated, special. This is not just gratitude, it is conditioning. Once you are used to proving your care through sacrifice, they raise the stakes. Now it is not just a late-night talk, it is a favor that risks your own reputation. Not just staying over a few nights, but signing a lease together. Not just helping with one project, but tying your work or social life to theirs. The real trap appears when they start using those very investments against you. The line often sounds like this: "After all I have done for you." Research on reciprocity shows that people feel a strong need to pay back favors. In the sunk cost lock, every favor they did becomes a weapon, not a gift. They remind you of the job lead they gave, the money they lent, the times they listened to you cry, the support they showed when others doubted you. The hidden message is clear: you owe them. Questioning them becomes a sign of disloyalty. Leaving becomes betrayal. They also attach guilt to any attempt to step back. Studies on guilt induction and controlling relationships show how effective this is. As soon as you express doubt or ask for space, they frame it as proof that you are selfish or ungrateful. They might say you used them, or that you are just like everyone who hurt them before. Suddenly, the simple act of taking care of yourself is painted as a moral failure. Many people would rather stay in a bad situation than face a story where they are the villain. The manipulator counts on that fear. To make the lock even tighter, they often push for public and shared commitments. Social psychology shows that once people make a public promise, they feel strong pressure to stay consistent and avoid looking foolish. The manipulator may push for things like moving in together quickly, posting constant public declarations of loyalty, starting a joint project, merging friend groups, or even having a child before the relationship has truly proven itself. Each shared step creates more to lose if you walk away: a home, a social circle, a business, a public image as a perfect couple or ideal team. Early warning signs show up when you notice that proof of loyalty always seems to require you to give up something important. They might expect you to cancel on longtime friends to be with them, or to defend them at work even when they are wrong, or to spend money you do not have. When you hesitate, they do not try to understand. Instead, they question your love, your friendship, or your character. Phrases like, "If you really cared, you would not think twice," or "Everyone else let me down. Do not you be like them," are designed to push you past your own limits. Another sign is that your reasons for staying slowly change. At first, you stayed because you were happy. Later, you notice you are staying because leaving would mean losing your apartment, your shared friends, your public identity, or the image you had of yourself as loyal and strong. You hear yourself say things like, "We have been through so much together. It would be wrong to quit now." That sounds noble, but look closer. Are you fighting for something that is alive and growing, or are you protecting your ego from admitting this was a bad choice? Research on cognitive dissonance explains why this is so powerful. When reality clashes with our self-image, we feel mental tension. If you see yourself as smart and loving, it hurts to admit you stayed in something harmful. To avoid that pain, many people twist the story instead of changing their situation. They downplay the harm. They highlight the few good days. They tell themselves the manipulator is just going through a tough time, or that loyalty means enduring anything. Pride becomes a prison. The longer you stay, the harder it is to step out without feeling like your whole past judgment was a mistake. The sunk cost lock can grind people down slowly. Years pass while they wait for the other person to change, while they excuse broken promises, while they carry more and more of the weight. They might watch their social world shrink because others got tired of seeing them hurt. They might lose savings, job opportunities, or health from the constant stress. Yet when they imagine leaving, they feel sick. All that time, all that love, all those compromises, for nothing. It feels easier to double down, to try harder, give more, hope this next sacrifice will finally unlock the version of the relationship they wanted from the start. This tactic also poisons how you see your own needs. You might start viewing rest, boundaries, and self-respect as selfish luxuries instead of basic rights. The manipulator may encourage this by praising you whenever you ignore your own limits for them. You become proud of how much pain you can absorb, how much you can handle. But that pride is exactly what keeps you locked in. It turns survival into an identity. The strong partner, the loyal friend, the person who never gives up. Walking away begins to feel like killing that identity. Escaping the sunk cost lock requires a simple but brutal shift in thinking. What you have already spent is gone, no matter what you do next. The only question that matters is whether putting more time, money, and energy into this will lead to a better future, based on real evidence, not hope. That is how an investor cuts losses on a failing project. That is how a strategist retreats from a bad position to avoid total defeat. It is also how a person leaves a relationship or situation that is draining them. A useful test is this: if a stranger described your situation to you without naming you, would you tell them to stay or to go? Strip away your pride, your history, your fear of judgment. Look only at patterns of behavior over time. Not promises, not apologies, not occasional good days. Actual patterns. If someone you love was living that pattern, what advice would you give them? Often the answer you would give them is the answer you are afraid to give yourself. The manipulator may react strongly. If you start to pull back, they might suddenly shower you with attention, make big promises, or bring up every sacrifice you both made as proof that you cannot quit now. Remember that intense regret and sweet words do not erase years of action. Also remember that staying just to avoid being ungrateful is a trap built from your own values. Gratitude does not mean eternal obedience. You can appreciate what was good and still refuse to be harmed anymore. The hardest part is forgiving yourself for not leaving sooner. Many people look back and feel deep shame for how long they stayed, how much they lost, and how clearly the signs seem now. But that shame is another chain the manipulator planted. You stayed because you are human, because your loyalty was used against you, because your hope was turned into fuel for someone else's comfort. Once you see the sunk cost lock for what it is, you can start telling a different story. Not about failure to leave earlier, but about the courage to stop the loss now. When you cut your losses, you are not erasing your past. You are choosing not to let a bad story keep writing your future. The time, love, and effort you gave were real. They say something good about you, even if they were placed in the wrong hands. You do not honor those sacrifices by throwing more years into the same fire. You honor them by deciding that from this point on, your investments go into people and situations that give life back, instead of slowly taking it away.